Now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out with a flame. I will let you in this game. Take me out when I'm down. 'Cause with you I'm safe and sound. 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 I'm safe and
I'm Adrian Forbes and welcome to NR1Live.
Well, as my favourite MC once said, it's hammer time. West Ham are in town today. Norwich City obviously looking to try and get some kind of pride to go into next season, which is looking like the Championship. We're going to be joined by Adrian Forbes and Darren Huckabee online today as well. But as always, Rob Newman's in the studio with me. Rob, this could be the final nail in the coffin today. If they lose today, they are officially down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very disappointing, but it is a fact. And like you say, you mean you want them to win today, but like I say, if they don't get a win today, they're down. You know what I mean? And then they've got 3 games then to enjoy the last 3 games in the Premier League. So it's disappointing, but it's another chance for them to show that, hey, listen, there's some fight about us. Let's try and get the 3 points.
Yeah, and we've been through it as players. You know, we've been relegated. It's a horrible, horrible time as a player, isn't it? You almost want it over and done with.
Yeah, you do. You know, I mean, like I say, we saw them like lying on the pitch last week against Brighton. And I think they knew them, but like you say, when you know you know that the final now is going to get nailed sooner rather than later. So, but there's personal pride here, pal. You know what I mean? There's personal pride. I mean, these are professional guys out here, and whatever. Like I mean, and like I say, you mean they've got 4 games left in the Premiership. So let's go out and give her all and hopefully get a result.
This was Todd Cantwell sat on the pitch last week. You know, I think the reality hit home for a few of the boys at that last game last week. But you know, we talking about Cantwell and some of the younger boys now. We talked about this off air. I mean, where in terms of the younger lads now, is this an opportunity for them to get some experience in the Premier League? Do they chuck them in against Chelsea or Man City? Because you don't want it to get, you know, embarrassing where you know, you stick too many young lads in and give them those opportunities and it becomes detrimental to them in terms of their career moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think today is not that time because there is still a possibility. You know what I mean? And all the time there's a possibility. The manager will think, well, listen, there's a chance. Well, there's a chance. I'm going to play my so-called strongest team. If it doesn't happen today, like you say, Chelsea, Man City away ain't the easiest. So I would be like not inclined to put loads of young players in, but you could put one or two in, space them around. You still got like an experienced enough team to have a respectable result if they get beat. But the one next Saturday, if they don't get a result today, Burnley at home, it would be a case of, right, listen, let's put 4 or 5 in, playing on the pitch, Carrow, which is a fantastic arena to play in as well, and then let's see if you are good enough, because we've got to go down to the Champions now and we've got to burn that up next year.
Yeah. And here's the team you starting with Norwich today. Few changes. I mean, I look at it and I see Cantwell again. We've just seen him on the pitch from last week, and Cantwell's back on the bench today. I mean, he's got to be someone who considers himself a bit unlucky, isn't he? To be, it almost feels like he's a bit of a scapegoat. He seems to be the one who keeps getting dropped, and actually he's been probably one of Norwich's best assets this season. So whether that's he's got a little knock or something, perhaps, I don't know. But you don't put him on the bench then, do you?
Whether they're just trying to shield him and not sell him in the summer, because if he comes and does well in these games, yeah, I mean, you might get someone coming in
and is that
an
the case
offer.
for some of the younger ones as well? Could you argue the case of someone like an Adam Eadie? We've all said, should be given an opportunity, should have had more game time perhaps. Is it if he had gone in and done pretty well, they want to keep him for next year? Then they don't want to try and have interest for a lad so young, because he's not his highest value then, is he? If you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like you say, people will see Adam Eadie, and Adam Eadie's attributes is fantastic. You know what I mean? And no disrespect to Norwich, if they go down to the Championship, there's probably still going to be some Championship sides playing bigger wages than Norwich. So you don't really want to entice these clubs to come in for players and go from Norwich to another Championship club. Maybe sell them to a Premiership club, which is different. You know what I mean? But like I say, I don't know. You don't know what's going on within the corridors of the offices and whatever. And they will have the best interests of Norwich at heart. And it might be a case of, I know Todd was injured last week, and I think they were saying he didn't know whether he'd be fit, so maybe that's the reason for him. But in terms of maybe starting Adam Eadie, I think he's done well enough over the last two, 3 games when he's come on. Yeah, he's had an impact on the game. Throw him in from the start, see if he can have an impact. Take him off after 60 minutes if he doesn't do nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But start him. You know what I mean? And put the opponents on the back foot.
And in terms of the fans as well, but on a day like this when they possibly could be relegated today, does it? I mean, if I was a player out there now and you get relegated to it kind of doesn't feel real, because the fans aren't there to kind of commiserate with you or share it with you. And even for the fans at home, it must be a really difficult thing. And we've got Rob on the phone with us now, who is a fan in exactly that position. And Rob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Rob. Look, we're just talking about that. With the threat of relegation today, how does it feel from a fan being at home and not being able to be at the stadium and experience that as a fan? Does it feel almost like it's not happening in a sense?
Well, it's really strange. I think from many of us, I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but certainly for me, I think football kind of ended back in March when the lockdown happened. I think it just feels like we'd come to terms with football stopping back then. So it does feel a little bit as if you're at a distance. It doesn't hurt quite as much as it maybe would have done if we'd have been there. But I also think, conversely, that if fans had have been in the ground for these last 5-6 matches, then maybe the results would have been different. I think we lost momentum when the football stopped, and I just don't think we've got it back again. And it's just such a surreal situation that everyone's found themselves in. I don't know if it sounds like an excuse, obviously, but I just don't think it feels like it would do in normal circumstances.
Yeah, and you can't have any effect on the game because you're sat at home, and I think it's been pretty evident. It can't be just a coincidence that the 3 teams who are in the bottom 3 before lockdown, there's still the 3 teams that are still there. Normally you get a team that kind of fights their way out of it. It always seems to be a regular thing in the Premier League, but it hasn't happened. So it must have something to do with the environment of those teams down the bottom not having their fans there.
Yeah, I think so. I think the crowd at Carrow Road makes such a difference. I think, looking back to the Man City game earlier this season, arguably, if we'd have played that behind closed doors, I think that the crowd had a real impact on driving the team forward. I think you'd have probably seen some differences in some of the other matches we did. I think Farker raised that after the Everton game as well, saying we don't lose that game if fans would have been in the ground. You as a professional will know what impact, if any, fans have on players, and I know people would say you don't need fans to lift you when you're in a massive fight to avoid relegation, but I genuinely think it must have some impact, because it's just such a surreal thing when you're effectively playing what feels like a training game as opposed to real kind of blood and thunder 3-pointers against relegation rivals. It's just very strange.
Yeah, well, I think they'll need you and the other 27,000 next season back in the Championship, unfortunately, Rob. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the game.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Makes some great points then, doesn't it? But it's difficult being home from a supporter and kind of thinking, how do I approach a relegation at home? I mean, would you want to be his wife?
No. It is difficult, and we've said that for the last however many games we've watched since the restart. The fans play a massive part in Norwich City's in game. You know what I mean? And that's been totally missing. And like Rob said there, I genuinely think they would have got more points on the board if fans had been here over the last few games.
Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of, I wouldn't say, spats of form, I guess, back at Watford at the weekend. So just have a look at our match pack.
So 0-0, no goals as we stand, but here comes Anel Hernandez forward now, going towards the Watford area, and is he going to shoot? No, he lays it off to Buendia. It's a goal! Emi Buendia has scored as we speak. A brilliant goal from Emi Buendia. It was great work from Anel Hernandez going forward, running towards the penalty area, laid it off to Emi Buendia, the Argentinian. He's had lots of criticism about not scoring. Well, he scored today, curling it in. So it's Norwich City who lead at Watford. Watford 0, Norwich City 1.
Waiting for the referee's whistle to go. It goes. And it is going to be Capoue to deliver towards the far post. There's men there. There's a header down. And that header's gone in. That's a very quick reply from Watford. And it's their number 4, Craig Dawson, the defender, going up against Alexander Tettey towards the back post. It's intercepted by Watford, and they try and go forward on the break down the right-hand side, and Sarr takes out Kenny McLean, who's left on the floor. Sarr still going forward, edge of the box, on his right foot, twists it in towards the near post. Still a chance, a bicycle kick by Danny Welbeck, and that is a goal for Watford. It looked like Aarons had done enough just to get something on the ball, and it looped up behind. I think it was Danny Welbeck who just managed to twist and throw his body at it. He looks left, looks to get it in, cross in, header. Is this going to fall for Eadie? Oh man, that was the opportunity. Adam Eadie threw himself at full stretch and did manage to get studs on the ball, but not quite enough contact. That would have gone into the bottom of the net, but it just goes wide. That was a real opportunity for Norwich City.
We talk about fine margins. You don't get much fine in that, do they? With Adam Eadie at the end there, probably should have scored. You can see it on his face, but he's someone who has come in and he hit the post here the other week as well, and he's done okay, isn't he? Yeah,
like I just said earlier, I mean, he's got pace. As a centre half myself, I mean, I look at Adam Eadie and all what he's got is pace, power, can score goals as well. Absolutely, anyone with pace, I would have hated it. But listen, he's a young kid. He's full of fire at the moment. You know what I mean? Like I say, so like I say, unleash him from the start. He's not done bad when he's come on. He's had an effect. See at the post, he nearly scored there and whatever. I mean, see what he can do from the start.
Yeah, and somebody will know him quite well. We've got on the line now, a proper legend of the football club. Darren Huckabee's joining us.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me, Hucks?
Yeah, good afternoon, boys.
Here he is. Thanks for joining us, mate. Look, we've all been here before. We were talking about this before. We've been through relegation battles. All of us have. I mean, what do you see as the difference in terms of compared to what you've been in a relegation battle and the kind of the personnel within the squad? Because that seems to me a bit of a difference. Because it seems like 21 points is a pretty pitiful kind of sum of points from a relegation season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think coming back from lockdown, we've not really shown up. I know we did okay second half against Watford, but if we're being realistic, this battle was lost a long time ago, and it's a real shame that we're not fighting with 4 games to go.
Yeah, and you've have a lot to do with the young lads when you're working at the football club at Campwell and all the other boys there. I mean, is it true that there was a rumour that you encourage lads to kick Cantwell just to toughen him up a bit? Is that right?
All the time, yeah. whenever he got the ball, we just tell people to lay into him. He's got unbelievable ability. He always has had. His mindset he was brave, but he couldn't take a kick. And if you play him in the Championship or play him in the Premier League, and you're an attacking, skillful player, you're going to get kicked, you're going to get hurt, and it's how you deal with it.
Yeah, and looking at the teams that have come into the Premier League, and Norwich obviously put up with Sheffield United last year. Sheffield United were not a better football inside than Norwich were in the Championship last season. Why have Sheffield United managed to find a way to stay in the Premier League?
You'd probably say technically that they probably weren't as good as last season, but physically, mentally, you'd probably say they were a bit above us. And I think for all our technical ability, we've been a bit soft this season, and I think Sheffield United have stood the battle better than we have. Simple as that.
And is that for you, Rob? Is that a similar thing you think as well?
Absolutely. You mean they've got a method of playing. They're not the most attractive on the eye, but they stick to the system, and they've had a lot of luck. You know what I mean? Like I say, clubs will go to Sheffield and play Sheffield and saying we're in for a battle today.
Yeah.
They come to Norwich, they won't probably say we're in for a battle. We've got to beat them technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stop Norwich playing. They're not going to beat us up. They're not going to be physically stronger than us and whatever. But Sheffield United will be, and I think that's like Darren said, that's the reason.
And Huck, so we've got some real assets in the squad. We talk about them quite a bit in terms of the lads in the fullbacks, and Lewis and Aarons and Campwell and Godfrey. They're the real assets of the club. But do we have a bit of a kind of a higher expectation of them? Because if you look at them, actually, if you're going to move from a Norwich City at the minute, those lads want to be moving to an established Premier League side, sort of mid-table and up. Are they going to get into an established Premier League side at the moment? Because no one really has given themselves any real quality to show that they deserve a move of that quality, have they?
I think our biggest problem, Jock, is that we've had to play all of them. So in a back four, Rob would know, if you've got three relatively young lads, unexperienced lads in the Premier League, and you're asking them to basically carry the team, it's very difficult. I think if you take any of the young lads and put them in a good Premier League team, they'll do okay. I'm not saying they'll be exceptional, but they'll do okay. But in a back four to play three young lads and expect them to basically survive in the Premier League was a tough ask. It really was.
Do you think the club have been quite astute as well in a lot of these players, they signed on longer contracts, almost with the expectation of going back into the Championship? And for these young lads, surely that would be a good place to be, isn't it? Because if they keep the same squad together, and I know that's lots of ifs and buts, but if they keep the same squad together, surely they've got a great opportunity to come straight back into the Premier League again.
I think if you keep the same squad and you add to it a little bit, you're going to have a chance. Whoever comes down with us are going to have to remodel their squads, because Bournemouth pay a lot of money. Aston Villa has spent a fortune and they're going to have to get rid of players. So he's trying to keep the same squad and keep this momentum going. And that's why this game today and the last 3 games are more important, because it's going to be a quick turnaround before they start next season. And you've got to take some kind of confidence going into that, because if not, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, top man, Hoax. Look, we'll speak to you at half-time as well. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Perfect. See you in a bit.
That's an interesting point he makes there, isn't it? Because Norwich are, as much as they don't want to go down, they're well equipped, probably more than anybody else is, to have that happen. With the other teams that are likely to go down, the spending has been out of control, isn't it?
No, like you said, Aston Villa, they're going to have to get rid of players. You know what I mean? Spending that amount of money going down in the Championship, they didn't realise the players in that team.
We can see a graphic here of it. I mean, that's their net spend,
Yeah,
60 million.
Yeah.
But then they've got a real asset in someone like Jack Grealish. They could probably sell for 50 million. Then that doesn't become such a big
No,
gap.
it doesn't. But then they've got to replace Jack Grealish. You know what I mean? If they don't replace Jack Grealish, who's arguably been their standout player this season, they probably won't go back. They won't get up from the Championship. So they're going to want to replace him for like. But if you're going to sell him for 50 million, you're going to have to replace him for somewhere around 30, 40 million. So all of a sudden that goes up again. So it's
and a net spend of 750,000 by Norwich City. I mean, that's almost the writing was on the wall when you start the season.
It doesn't fill you with optimism, but they did so well last year, and you admired Stuart and Daniel for keeping this team together. We believe these players can perform in the Premier League. Ultimately, they haven't. But like Hux has said, these young players that have been playing in Norwich, it'd be interesting to see how many minutes they've actually accumulated, all of them. If they went to another Premiership club, they wouldn't have played as many games. They'd probably play 15 or 20. We're asking them to play every single week here. Yeah. We're asking them to get results every single week here. It's a massive responsibility for young players.
Well, it is, and you look at other teams that have brought youngsters in this season. Chelsea have had to because of the bans they've had. Man United and someone like Mason Greenwood has been brought into the side, and he's some player, but it's easier to blood a youngster into a team that's doing well, isn't it?
And surrounded by top players. And like I say, he's the only one. Yeah, like I say, the left backs, Williams has been playing for them really. Yeah. Rashford's an established player already. Yeah. McTominay, probably you say he's an established player. So Greenwood's the only one that's come in and he's doing well at the moment. Chelsea, they've got fantastic young players and whatever, but none of them are playing regularly each week and whatever. He's got the luxury of saying, well, I'll play a Tammy Abraham up front or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, but take Tammy Abraham out because I've got Giroud to go in, I've got William to go in there. You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset.
And defence of Norwich City, they've always talked about this being a longer term project until they're building for the future. So I guess the proof will be in the pudding come next season if they manage to hold on to these lads that they have signed on longer contracts, because that would say to me then that's part of what we want to do. We're not letting them go anywhere. They're on longer contracts. They're staying with us, so we can build again. If they go, or 2 or 3 of them go, then all of a sudden things don't seem to be quite as rosy as they were before. Because losing 2 or 3 of your best players can be massively disruptive.
Big problem. I don't think personally, and again, we don't know what's going on behind the corridors here at Carrow Road. I think they sell one. I think they sell one player, which is great because that 750 grand becomes a profit because you're selling for 20, 25 million, whatever. Yeah. So you've got like a great profit. But then what you've got then, the 3 or 4 that haven't gone will see his mate sign for a Premier League club, and all of a sudden I'm in the Championship, he's in the Premier League. What do I do? You know what I mean, how do I feel about that? Not very happy because I wanted to be the one to go in there. So if they're only selling one, but we don't know what they're going to do.
You've dealt with management before as well and been around that. How do you deal with a process of a player that probably doesn't want to be here because they want to play higher? Is it a case of getting into their ear quite early to say, actually, do you know what we're going to do? We want you to stay here. You will get your move in time, but actually it's better for you to be playing in the Championship next year in a successful side rather than scrapping around in the bottom end of the Premier League again, perhaps been on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. And this experience would have done them the world of good. You know what I mean? Like you say, it's all the euphoria of last year is like complete opposite this year. Okay, you're playing in great stadiums against great players, but you're still losing most of the games and whatever. So what you say to the ones that stay is, listen, we're going to build Norwich City around you for the next 4, 5, 6 years. You are going to be the blood of Norwich City football team going forward. So we need to get out of this Championship. We need to get back in the Premiership. So you're going to be the cornerstone of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're going to build, you're the nucleus, 4 or 5 years, going to be the nucleus of the next 5, 6, 7 years of Norwich City's football.
And again, we've got someone on the line now who will know those younger players very well. Adrian Forbes is joining us. Can you hear me, Forbesy?
I can indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thanks, mate. Look, we've been through this before. We've talked to Hux about it. You've been through relegation with Norwich City before. What do you see the differences now between the sides that you've been in? To me, it seems to be characters. That all comes down to that. Not in terms of the technical ability. They've got some great players. But it seems that you're lacking that kind of, the teams you played and got relegated, you could name 3 or 4 players in that team you could reel off that have got that fight, that power, that drive, that determination.
I think so. I think 100% in these sort of situations, you're looking for leaders. And we're not just talking about that leader that's got the armband on a match day. We're looking for 11 leaders on the pitch that are going to, really battle to get us out of the situation we're in. And for me, when you're in this sort of situation, whether you're second from bottom, third from bottom, fighting to stay outside of the bottom 3, it's not necessarily about performance. It's not necessarily about playing stuff that's pretty. It's about doing what you need to do to achieve survival. And when I look at the games that I've been fortunate enough to watch, Norwich since the restart, shall we say, I think that's the one thing for me that is lacking, that real character or characters, those real people that are going to grab themselves and the team by the scruff of the neck and drag them to survival. So I totally agree that for me is the thing that's missing.
And is that something you can teach, though, Forbes, or is that just characters in terms of personnel? Because to me, it's not something you can really teach. You either got it or you haven't. Now, you're working with Luton at the moment, been doing very well and actually working with the first team now, and they were in a similar position in terms of their league, down the bottom of the league, needed results, and they've produced results. So what have you seen, or what have you been installing in them that has made them get results compared to Norwich have found it much harder?
I think it's 2 words, from Luton Town's point of view, that what we're doing with, obviously, as you just said, I've stepped up to first team coach alongside Nathan Jones, Mick Harford and Paul Hart. And the one thing that Nathan's done since he's come into the club is instilled a confidence and belief that actually, yes, we are where we are, but we deserve to stay in this league. We do have the physical attributes and the capabilities to stay in this league. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that our structure, our team shape is correct. But off the back of that, we've got to be prepared to fight for every single ball, both in and out of possession, and outwork every single team that we come up against. And, we went up to Huddersfield last night. We beat Huddersfield 2-0 away from home. And we did that. And we give ourselves a bit of a lifeline and a little bit of hope. But also that's got to be instilled in the training ground. So when I'm working on a possession-based session with the boys, I'm making sure I'm instilling that work rate. I'm instilling the attitude. I'm instilling the desire and the passion to look after the ball and the importance that they've got to replicate that in training and in games. And then you see the leaders then start to flourish. The leaders start then to come out and actually it bears fruit coming back.
And you sound like you're really enjoying it, Forbes, as well. You sound like you're having the time of your life at the moment.
We're in that relegation battle.
But you seem like you're really enjoying it as well,
You've got to do that. I am. It's obviously, it was well documented when I left Norwich just over a year ago. It was a bit of a shock and I didn't see it coming and was disappointed, obviously. But how things have changed for me now to see myself working in and around the first team, the learning that I've taken on in such a short period of time has been fantastic. And fingers crossed, similar to Norwich, we're hoping to to hopefully achieve the miracle, as Daniel Farker said a few months ago. And we put ourselves in a position where we've made the bottom of the Championship very, very, very tight. And you alluded to it a few minutes ago that there will be the likes of Norwich that will potentially look as though they are coming back down into the Championship. Those players can't come back down to the Championship and think that they can just replicate performances, or it's going to be easy again for them to just get a straightforward promotion, because the Championship really, really is a tough league, and it's only going to get tougher when you look at the other teams alongside Norwich that could get relegated.
I think as well, Forbes, if Norwich do go down, which look like and Luton survive, you're going to relish coming back to Carrow Road this year by the looks of it.
Well, hopefully, I don't know how long my tenure will last with the first team. I got a little bit of a short promotion from head of coaching to first team coach when Nathan came back. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this season, whether I'll go back to my old role, stay with the first team, or what. I've not looked at that at this moment in time. But I've got to say, if the opportunity does arise to me to come back as a first team coach to Carrow Road, of course, it's something that I'd relish.
Top man, mate. Look, enjoy the game. Good luck for the rest of the season, and we'll speak to you at half time.
Thank you.
Well, he's touched on it there, and isn't he? He's got that passion. He's installing it into his players. He's making sure that comes across. But did Norwich almost shoot themselves in the foot a little bit before the season started because of all the talk of we got here too soon, or we want to be here and we want to do the best when we're here? But there's that bigger programme, this 5-year plan. That must come across to the players as well. The players must be in that and thinking, do you know what? If we go down, it's not. Almost gives them an excuse, doesn't it?
Straight away before a ball was kicked. Like we could have done with one more year in the Championship or whatever. Like we're here too early. You're here because you were the best team in the Championship. You know what I mean? Simple as that. You know what I mean? Like, so come and let's embrace it and let's try and stay in the Championship. We don't want to go back down to the Championship. You know what I mean? And like you say, players are like, mate, you know what I mean? If someone says that at the start of the season, in the back of your mind, I'm not saying they do it on purpose and whatever, but in the back of your mind, listen, if we go down, we ain't lost no money. You know what I mean? Like I say, we're still getting well paid. You know what I mean? Let's go back down to the Championship and we can do it again. That boy, and Forbesy has just said there, listen, don't go down and think it's going to be as easy as it was last year, because teams coming up will spend money, teams going down will want to come back up. You've already got teams in the Championship that are Premiership teams over the last few years wanting to get back up there, so it's going to be tough for me.
Well, that 50% reduction in wages is going to sting a bit, isn't it?
Still decent wages though, mate. It's going to sting them, mate, but it's still not bad wage to be on, like, you know what I mean? But like I said earlier, there will be players in the Championship earning more than what Norwich City players will be earning. So they will have that, like, I want to get to the Championship to win even more money, because that is the promised land financially. Yeah,
and Emmy Buendia has found his goal-scoring form at last against Watford in midweek, and we've got a key matchup with him and Declan Rice. Now he's got that goal, that will give him the confidence, won't it? But he's coming up a top-quality player today in Declan Rice. That should be a really good matchup.
Yes, you know what I mean? Declan Rice, I think, since the restart, has put in some really good performances. I mean, he's one of them ones that you name in the likes of Rashford, Greenwood and whatever, like, over the next generation for England. Declan Rice is going to be a major player in that. You know what I mean? Even so that he's got a captain rubber stamped all over him in about 5 or 6 years' time, I believe, because he's a good professional, he's a good player. You know what I mean? Buendia, if he plays in that 10 role today with Declan Rice as a number 6, he is going to have to be at his best today, because Declan Rice is a decent player. But Emmy Buendia scored the goal last week, the goal that's got that milestone off his back. You know what I mean? Hopefully he can come and score one at Carrow Road today. Yeah,
and we've got another matchup with Hernandez and Gerard Bowen, who obviously plays for West Ham. And look, Gerard Bowen was linked with Norwich a few seasons ago when he was at Hull, a decent player. But Hernandez has actually been a threat, hasn't he, for Norwich when he's played?
The last few games we've seen here, what Hernandez gives you is pace. You know what I mean? Raw pace in the team and whatever. I mean, but what Hernandez has got to do after he's used that pace is to be able to play the right ball, the correct ball. The end product's got to be better. Did last week, come inside, you know what I mean, played it to Buendia, bit of trickery goal. Times here where he's done really well, beat the fullback, just rather than swinging the right foot as well, he's tried to beat him again, then again, lost the possession. You know, as a winger, mate, you know what I mean, end product is massive in your game. He's got the ability to go past the player. When he goes past the player, his end product has got to be better.
Yeah, okay, well, I think we're just about to get started, not too long away. So it's going to get into the minutes countdown for the game. But of course, at the end of that, you'll see a minute's pause, or I think it's going to be a minute's pause, or a moment's pause for Jack Charlton, who passed away this morning.
Always strange to have a minute's silence at a football match that isn't followed by a huge roar. That's what we usually get when the place is full, but not when a game is being behind closed doors, but still a fitting... spell as Premier League footballers, and they wanted it so much and they earned it and they worked so hard to get it last year, but they're not going to be Premier League footballers for much longer because the way this is going, their relegation is going to be...
Well, I can't say it's Groundhog Day, Rob, can we? But the frustrations, again, we see from set pieces, and we talk about zonals, don't we, zonal marking, and it's just not happened for them, is it?
Someone somewhere is sending them to zonal mark, whether it's the manager, whether it's the free kick expert, which Premier League sides have got now, with someone coming to free kicks against an offensive one. But yet again, two set pieces, 2 headers and goals. The first one was 6-yard box, but it was a flick on. No one dominated that one, and the second one was just a free header from 8 yards. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, if you're playing in Division 2, you can see goals doing that.
And again, it's giving away those stupid fouls in the stupid areas. I talked about it on commentaries where West Ham do it at the right times when it's desperation. You've got to take them down. So we're giving away stupid free kicks at times they shouldn't be doing them.
People can say it's frustration. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes it's a cop out. You know what I mean? People are giving the ball away. I mean, the last one, Buendia's given the ball away halfway line or whatever, or slipped over, frustrated with himself, run straight back, give a free kick away in a dangerous position, cost them the second goal. They've got to realise, you know what I mean? They've got to realise, hang on a minute, we've conceded, we're very susceptible to scoring goals from free kicks. Let's try not give free kicks away in dangerous areas. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like you say, West Ham have managed the game well. If they give free kicks away, it's like what they call a professional free kick. It's done for the reason, you know what I mean? But they know it had to be done. But they've not been giving stupid free kicks away.
No, and there's a couple of lads I'm sure are frustrated as we are, sat at home watching or listening to this. And Darren Hucks and Adrian Forbes, can you join us now, boys? I mean, Hucks, we'll start with you. I mean, it's frustrating, isn't it? We seem to be saying the same things every single week, and we don't seem to learn those lessons. We're just talking then about giving away silly free kicks in stupid areas when you don't need to, when you are or you cannot defend from set pieces.
Yes, stupid free kicks, but someone be brave, someone go and win a header, someone be a boss in it, be a leader. It's too easy. How can Antonio beat both our centre-halves to the ball to score an easy goal? That's the second goal. The first one, just someone going to attack the ball. It's embarrassing. It's literally embarrassing. It can't keep happening. Someone's got to say something to him because they've just got to man up a little bit.
Yeah, and Forbes, is it a case of, there is no accountability for zonal marking? It's an easy way out for a player, isn't it, to say, well, he's not my man, I'm marking the area I'm stood in. But it's a tackle. I mean, I can't believe that they still continue with the same things week in, week out. Look, if you've got good players, you can play zonal marking because they will attack the ball. We haven't got the type of players that can do that. So surely, it seems to me as if picking up for man and a bit of accountability and a bit of responsibility is the way forward.
Even with zonal marking, Darren, it's I'm going to command my zone and I'm going to come and attack the ball. And also the reality is for me, even if Daniel Farker has said, this is your zone, I'm going to go and meet the ball and I'm going to win the header and I'm going to dominate my area. At the end of the day, far too often, the ball is going into an area and that area has not been dominated. And if you look at the first goal, the first header at the near post, I think it's Vrancic's marking. He hasn't gone and really decided, I'm going to go and win this header and I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to take my man. And then the second one, as it drops to Antonio, he's actually free. He's actually unmarked in front of the goal. That's criminal defending at whatever level, whether it's League 2, League 1, Championship or the Premier League. And I think for me, if they've been working on that in training, which they would have done throughout the course of the season, I can't see how they can't deviate away from that zonal marking and have a plan B, but also make sure that from a coaching point of view, the manager is really stern in saying, you command your area. And at the end of the day, probably the last thing I'll say on the zonal marking is, you can't zonal mark if you don't have people that are going to be dominant aerially. And the reality is the Norwich players obviously are not dominating aerially, which is why they've conceded so many goals from set pieces.
And Hux, that sort of sums it up there a bit. And you touched on a bit in terms of leadership on the pitch. And Rob and I were talking just before we came on air about, you look at Noble at the minute, he's 33, yet he is absolutely bossing that midfield at the moment, isn't he? That's the kind of leadership that Norwich are clearly lacking.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of the oldest players on the pitch and he's kind of dictating the play. I think Antonio deserves a lot of credit as well. I think he's muscling our two centre-halves. He's a great outlet for him. He's holding the ball up, getting people up the pitch. They just look like they've got the way to play. And we just kind of play nice in the middle third, but we ain't got any end product and we can't defend. That's what it is. We've got no end product really. We're poor at the back, but we look okay through the middle. And if we're going to be honest with you, it's just not good enough.
And Huxley and you, Forbesy, as well. We know we were wingers. We knew our jobs was to get that ball into the box. But someone like Timo Pukki, Forbesy, if you've got nothing to attack, or you don't know if the ball's coming in, there's uncertainty whether there's going to be a cross or whether... It seems to me as if both Max Aarons and Jamal Lewis get into good areas, then they seem to want to cut back all the time and go centrally. And as a centre forward, that's frustrating, isn't it? Because you don't know whether to attack the ball or not. You don't know when the ball's coming in. I think Stiepermann's put a decent ball into the box. Buendia hasn't attacked it because they're not quite sure when that ball's coming in.
Yeah, and we played in those wide positions, and I think probably if I look at how Darren played to how I played to how you played, we're all slightly different in that I saw my job as a winger to get beyond the defender and put the ball into an area. And by putting the ball into an area, the strikers knew, right, when Forbesy gets past the left back, he's going to put it into an area. We've got to have someone going across the near post, someone going far post, and then you've got the midfielders that are going to support play in and around the penalty area and ring in the box. At the moment, you are seeing Jamal or Max will progress to the halfway line, turn out, go through midfield or go backwards. So from West Ham's point of view, it's really easy to deal with because they know there's going to be no real penetration going forward. So for me as well, you look at the position that Norwich are in the table. They've got nothing to lose by being a bit more dominant and being a bit more direct in their play. And at the moment, it's very, very safe, very, very easy. And you look at it, it looks like a team that knew their fate before the game started and are almost accepting it.
But guys, let me ask you a question, right? All three of you had like loads of pace to burn and you needed that space behind the fullback. The way Norwich play with their fullbacks really high up the pitch, basically, what would you do now? Because it's pointless you being out wide because the two fullbacks are out wide. Now, is it a case of saying, well, hang on a minute, we're looking very dodgy at the back now, saying to the fullbacks, listen, you just become defenders, you make us solid, we're conceding too many goals because what's happening? They're losing ball in the centre circle area of the pitch. They're high up the pitch and they're getting picked off left, right and centre. But what would you would be saying to those fullbacks, listen, I don't want you to be wide on the pitch. I'm the ones that's got to be wide on the pitch, receiving it where you're receiving it, because that's a 1v1 situation. Because what's happening then, all Buendia, Stiepermann, Hernandez are all coming into where all the bodies are, and basically the two fullbacks are the wingers. You know what I mean? So do you think it's a time now, hang on a minute, I'm a winger, I've got pace, like Hernandez should be saying to Lewis, I don't want to go in midfield, I want to receive it back on the byline, the throwing line, and I'm going to take the fullback on. What's your thoughts?
Well, for me, I played with Adam Drury, is probably one of the best left-sided left backs there is, and I didn't need his help going forward. So I wanted to stay there just to keep us safe and keep us secure. And if I didn't beat my man, I could lay it back to him. Yep. But you know, the two fullbacks are bombing on, and let's be honest, they haven't got the best quality in the world. That's why they play left back. If they were really good on the ball, good at going past people crossing the ball, they would play left wing. Yeah. So we've got to find a balance. It's too easy to keep saying fullbacks, keep going forward, and try and create chances, but also not defending. We've got to get the balance right, and at the minute we haven't got the balance right. No.
And Forbes, you've got to get those crosses into the box, haven't you? If they are getting into those areas, they've got to deliver, because then it gives you an opportunity to maybe score a goal. At the moment, they lose it in those areas, and then there's massive gaps behind them that they've then got to try and get back for. And I've seen Hernandez actually tracking back into a left-back position. It's all just all arse about face, isn't it?
It is, and I think if you look at last season, what Darren's talking about there, you did have Jamal and Max were getting in more advanced positions and putting balls in the box. They've not been able to replicate that this year in the Premier League. And the reality is the team as a collective have made the step up, continued with plan A, and plan A seems to be the only plan that Norwich City have. But the opposition you're coming up against know exactly what to do against that plan. They know that Max is going to bomb on. They know that Jamal's going to bomb on. Teams can cheat against that, and you can almost make it 2 for 2 at the back because the two centre-backs are going to stay and then hit Norwich on the counter-attack. But you're quite right in what you say, Rob. It is going to need almost, whether it's a change of personnel or a change of tact. But ultimately now that change of personnel or change of tact should have happened several games ago to give Norwich the best opportunity to try and gain a foothold in this league. But for me now, you can't actually see where Norwich are going to get goals from in this game. And certainly looking to next season, there's going to have to be a change of, not necessarily a change of personnel, shall I say, but a change of style or having another style to revert to if this style of play doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff, guys. We'll see you after the game. Top stuff. I mean, we just look at it on the tactics board here in terms of Norwich's positions, and this is basically what we're saying, isn't it? You get Max and Jamal coming so far up the pitch that these get split, and because they're not so split at the minute, because you've got Antonio and they're staying quite central, these areas here every single time. The cheating, Jarrod Bowen staying out.
Bowen staying there. Yeah, I mean, if he's coming back, but Bowen's staying there, one of these two gets it here. Declan Rice, it's just a straight pass here. Lewis is up here. And
they can afford to do this
absolutely.
Because they're staying as a structured back four.
Absolutely.
They're not getting caught out in these areas. They're staying, almost playing, well, they're playing the same shape as Norwich, essentially, aren't they? But what they've got different is their fullbacks are playing fullback.
But yeah, which is great, which is no problem. But when Jamal Lewis gets the ball and he's in front of, like, Jared Bowen, they've got to make something here. It's no good going there, stopping, letting him come back, and then basically going back to Tim Closer there. That's what they're doing. Not a problem if they want to cheat, but listen, what you got? You know what I mean? It's man for man here. Quality in the Premier League, you should have something.
If he's going to cheat, you should have an advantage in these areas.
Can pick it in here because one of these number sixes has got to come out to him. So he's got to come there. He's got a problem there. Does he go there? You've got like Buendia coming in there. They should have enough bodies. But that's a lot of the problem. You know what I mean? They're too safe. They want to keep the ball. They don't, rather than getting the ball there and say, right, let's attack them. Because then what happens then? Jared Bowen and his guy, he doesn't cheat because they're going to get a telling off because I've got to stand this side of him.
And when we say cheating, you're talking they're not coming back and doing defensive duties, are they? Jared Bowen, he knows that he can just sit in this area.
Yeah, no problem. And knowing that if he chases Jamal Lewis back, if I get close to him, and as soon as Jamal Lewis hears me, Jamal Lewis is going to stop. I'm going to go past him. He's going back. I've done my job. You know
so how do they get back into this game? Because set pieces, they look fragile. They look, if they give the ball away, they're you know, I mean, the kind of areas they're losing in those wide areas. It's almost like you want to go into that team at half time and say, look, West Ham have just played how we should be playing. Yeah. You know, as a 4-2-3-1, that's basically how we should be playing. Yeah. You know, is it as simple as that, say to him? But then you haven't got the personnel. You haven't got someone like an Antonio who's going to hold the ball up and run those corners, those channels. Because you know, we said about Steeperman, I'm not sure what he's offering that Todd Cantwell can't create going forward at the moment.
Or you tell me what Steeperman's doing that Adam Idam can do. You know what I mean? He gives them that pace as well. But like I say, Cantwell, get Buendia in this 10 area. You know what I mean? Then Buendia hasn't got to worry about going back, giving fouls away in there because he doesn't need to do that. When Lewis gets the ball here, Buendia will find a pocket of space because he wants to find a pocket of space because when he gets it, his first thought, I'm going to turn and attack the goal. That's what Norwich want to do. He gets balls in here and he's coming up against your midfielders. He wants to come up against the back four. If he can do that, he can slide balls into Pukki. Yeah. Because he's out there, He's concentrating more on defence when they give the ball away.
Because we've talked about cheating, there's no reason why Buendia can't do that.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to make the West Ham defenders think, isn't it? Because they're either going to go and think, well, I can't go because Buendia's staying in there. If he's coming back into these positions, it's easy.
You know what I mean? West Ham have been happy. Every time Norwich go, the times they've tried to go forward on the counter-attack, they've caught them up because Norwich didn't play an early ball or a quick ball, turned out. Get Buendia in these places here where he picks the ball up in spaces because his desire is to turn and attack him. And that's where I think a lot of Pukki's goals was when Buendia, little sliders down the side of the centre house. We ain't getting in those. He ain't getting in those positions. And when he does get in those positions, he's getting it there and he's running in, but he's running into bodies. Get behind the defensive four of Rice, basically, and in front of the two centre halves. In those little pockets of space, that causes a problem. Yeah. But if he doesn't do that, it's simple.
Just very quickly, we've got stats of the first half here we can have a look at. I mean, possession again, Norwich have had more of the ball, but it doesn't matter if you've got the ball and you're not having any shots, does it? It's pointless.
No shots on target. I can't remember the shots. Basically, there's a couple of shinners and whatever like from crosses. You know what I mean? West Ham could they've scored 2. They could have had another 3 or 4. Yeah. They look comfortable, mate. You know what I mean? Possession ain't going to win your games.
Got to try and get some out of this. Just a bit of pride, bit of passion.
That's what you got to do. You mean today? You know what I mean? It's all about coming out again now and putting on a performance in 45 minutes. Fingers crossed, mate.
Great stuff. I hope the second half's better than the first.
Final whistle blows, and it's not just the final whistle on this game, but it's the final whistle on Norwich City as a Premier League team. Their fate has been sealed in disappointing fashion at Carrow Road. It is an empty feeling here in more ways than one.
Well, as you heard from Chris there, that is officially confirmation of Norwich City's dropping out of the Premier League back into the Championship. And I think we've got the table here we can have a quick look at, although it doesn't make pleasant reading, I'm sure. Disappointing for Norwich, of course. 34 games played, 21 points. I mean, that is... Sorry, 35 games played, 21 points. It's pretty damning stuff, isn't it? It was the lowest points they've ever got relegated from the Premier League with.
Yeah, you mean there's been some highs, but too few of them. You mean, like I say, and simple answer is like they've not been good enough playing in the Premier League. You mean, it's a tough league. It's the toughest league in the world. You know what I mean?
But is it a good thing that fans actually aren't here today? Because as much as, you normally, it's sad and it's upsetting for everybody here when you get relegated, that performance today would have probably caused a little bit of volatility within the crowd as well, you'd think. Yeah,
basically the phrase going down with a whimper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it was today. You know what I mean? It's simple as there was nothing. In the last few weeks, we've been trying to get positives out of poor performances, and there has been individuals that have sort of like stood out, and I think stood up to the test and whatever, like, and given a all. Today, I think it was a case who's done well today, and I don't think I'm struggling to find one person, one player that's done well.
I'll tell you who has done well.
Go on.
Hux and Forbesy, who we're going to talk to now.
Here.
They've been fantastic today. They're still watching, I think, or listening. Hux, I mean, what can you say about the second half that we didn't say about the first? I mean, it's Groundhog Day, isn't it? You put in such a poor performance like that. I'm just saying, it's probably quite a good thing that the fans aren't here.
Oh, I think from my point of view, if the fans were there to see that, they would certainly have aired their views in a very, what word are we looking for, open and honest way, shall we say. And I think you've just alluded to it there. We knew at the start of this, and we knew several weeks ago, that Norwich were going to get relegated from the Premier League. But there's a way you've got to go about it. There's a way you've got to go and actually wear the shirt, wear the badge with a bit of pride if you're going to go down and really go down with a fight. And for me, I saw a group of players today that knew that fate was already sealed, but instead of having an attitude where actually we are down, but let's go and put on a show, let's go and actually show what we are about, I just didn't see that today. So really disappointing. And as you say, if the fans were there, I'm sure they would have voiced that as well. And Hux, I can kind of see the frustration in your face. You look totally fed up as well. It hurts, doesn't it? Doesn't matter if you played for the club in the past, you're a fan. To see that kind of performance and the way that Norwich have gone down since the lockdown's come back, it hurts everybody, doesn't it? You're on mute. Are you on mute?
There we go. Sorry.
There we go.
That's how bad it was. Like I say, it's one of the first times I've actually felt embarrassed watching.
Yeah.
We made West Ham look like Barcelona second half. They had so much time on the ball. They could do what they want. I think Antonio scored 4 goals. I don't think he's ever scored more than that in his whole career, has he? He's like, it's 2 is the most he's ever scored. He scored 4 goals.
He doubled his tally
and it could have been more
in the one game.
He
doubled his tally.
Do what they want.
Yeah, I mean, where do they go, Hux? Is it a case now of just trying to get a bit of pride? Because this could be quite damaging for the start of next season, couldn't it? I know you can forget about that and get on as Championship's a different league, but actually it leaves a lot of uncertainty and a lot of kind of questions coming from fans before the season even starts.
Well, just say you're the manager now, you're looking at that group of players. Who would you say that's shown anything in the last 4 or 5 games? Tim Krul, maybe? Yeah. Other than that, I don't see any fight, I don't see any passion, I don't see much ability. We're just completely down tools, and which, considering there's 3 games to go, it's shocking, really. There's no way, you can't even make it sound good. It's, anyone who's watched that today, we are so far off West Ham, and they are, 5th from bottom of the league? Yeah. We're miles off it. Yeah.
Forbesy, you can't probably see Hux's face, but he looks pretty fed up, to be honest, like we all are. But, is it putting your kind of manager's coaching head on? What do you do with that group of players now? Because there are some young lads in there that are going to need picking up, because that can be quite damaging towards them being in and around that environment.
It could be hugely damaging. And, you're looking at those players now that not only are they young players that have come through the academy and have now had the opportunity to get Premiership football very early on in their career, but from a club point of view, they're also an asset. So they've got to protect that asset in numerous ways. It is now, how do you build their confidence going into the next few games? How do you help them cope with their mindset of, do I stay? Do I leave? Is my mate going to go? Am I going to stay? Do I want to be part of a Championship club next year? do I want to continue to have the beautiful life of playing in the Premier League? So there's a lot for the club as a whole and the manager to think about. But I think the biggest thing for me now going forward for Norwich City, when you look about the what next, it's not what happens in the next 3 games, or because the precedent's already been set by recent performances. It's next season. And what is Norwich City Football Club going to do next season, and how are they going to set their stall out in the Championship? And I'm speaking from my own experiences at this moment in time, and you guys are speaking about it. You look at a Stoke that's down there, a Derby that's down there, a Swansea that's down there. You know, you mentioned Huddersfield, who are struggling down there. The Championship next season is not going to be a stroll in the park for Norwich City to come straight back in and expect. It's not going to be the case. So I think there's a lot of things and a lot of work that's going to have to go on behind the scenes at the football club as a whole to make sure that they set their stall out next season and for the future going forward.
And Hux, from your point of view, the youngsters you've worked with in the past here, we've seen it on the pitch today. I mean, is it a case of the senior players now getting around them? Is it the manager's job, or was it a bit of all of the above?
A bit of everything, really. I kind of disagree with Forbesy about the next 3 games aren't important. You know, we've got a big game against Chelsea, Man City away, and Burnley was never easy to play against. Now, if we get beat 6, 7, 8-0 at Man City, these players have got to take this on to next season. It's going to be a 2 or 3 week turnaround before the start of next season. And we could end up losing 10, 12 games on the trot. We're in a bit of trouble now, honestly. We've got to come together. I think the biggest thing we've lost from last season, where everyone was together, the togetherness is completely gone now. We've turned into a little bit of an embarrassment. So we've got to pull together somehow, and we've got to get a couple of good results before the end of the season, just to give us a bit of a chance to get a bit of momentum for next season.
Boys, absolutely brilliant stuff. Thanks for joining us today. I know it wasn't a great result, but as always, top stuff, some top players. Thanks, mates. Cheers, boys.
Thank you.
I mean, where do we go from there?
Mate, Hux has knocked it on the head there, basically. The next 3 games are important. They're relegated. They can play without this monkey hanging on the shoulder.
Like you said, they've made West Ham look a world beater today. You're going to play against a Man City side. You might stick out their Rezzies, but they're still going to be a fantastic team. So, I mean, you know, that could be massively damaging to lose 6 or 7 to a team like that. And then, like Hux has said, to start the season only a few weeks later, that can have a detrimental effect on everything, can't it?
Absolutely. They've got 2...
Because we could be starting the next season behind closed doors again as well.
Absolutely. And there's every chance that will happen. There is every chance that will happen. You know, I mean, the 2 away games, Chelsea and Man City, you know, I mean, they're in the top 4. You know what I mean? Like you say, they've got to change their game again. I think they've got to change the way they approach the game, the way they set up the formation. They have got to have
but it worked in the Championship. So is there a case to argue, well, we might not have worked in the Premier League, but go back in the Championship, play the same way with the same people, actually we'll get different results.
Yeah, I agree. But for the next 3 games, if they play like they've done since the restart, they could be 5-6. You know what I mean? Against Burnley as well. You know what I mean? Because Premiership, they've all done it since the project restart. You know what I mean? They've all done it. You know what I mean? And like you said, the crowd has been so important over like the big games against Man City early on in the season. Whatever. Like, I mean, the fans were fantastic. The energy they provided. They're not doing that now. Players are having to show how good they are. You know what I mean? And the formation and the setup of this is not working. They're getting picked off. And if they do that for the next 3 games, they're going to lose those games as well.
And also losing those games and losing the games heavily and playing the way they are. I think as Hux made a good point there. He said, you know, it kind of disjoints the team as well and the players within it. You start to get a little bit more. There isn't that togetherness because you feel a little bit you're not doing your job or you're not doing yours. And then you get players thinking, well, do I want to be here? You know, do I want to jump ship now? Well, I can. You know, just those poor results from coming back from lockdown has caused all of this uncertainty around it.
That performance, that result today has probably been the most damning since the start, I think. You know what I mean? Like I say, there was like nothing positive that we can more or less say about that game today. You know what I mean? So now what they've got to regroup. But like you said, individuals will look at other individuals and saying, listen, well, hang on a minute, you ain't doing your job, but I've got to try and do my job. So I'll throw it to them and saying, it comes about personal pride now. It comes about personal pride, like Forbes said, playing for the shirt, playing for the badge, but most importantly, playing for personal pride. Show that, okay, we've not been good enough collectively over the season, but individually, I can cut it amongst the best. And they're playing 2 of the best in the next 3 games. So individually, personal pride, and hopefully come together as a team and get some positives in the next 3 games to take forward to next season.
Yeah, well, we'll let it settle in for you. Relegation is official. It's Burnley in the next couple of weeks. Actually, next Saturday at home. Join us if you're there.